Welcome to episode 6 of One Way Sports. I'm your host, P-Way. What a great week 2 of NFL games that we had on Sunday, yesterday. I will react to all of it. Huge morning slate to react to, and then just 3 afternoon games, and then, of course, the night game, Sunday Night Football, Bears and Texans as well. So you know how it is, NFL week, so we'll do a full recap every single game. I'll take you through every game, kind of what I thought, what I didn't like. I am recording this right now during the Sunday Night Football game. So let's get through these games, and then I'll have a Sunday Night Football reaction, and, of course, Overreaction Monday for you guys on the way out. Lots of takeaways from this week, too. It was a weird week. Lots of road teams won. Lots of teams we didn't expect to, and now we have lots of teams 0-2, lots of teams 2-0, and lots of teams 1-1 bouncing back from week 1. But we'll get into all that in the breakdown. So let's go ahead and jump into the morning slate of games right now. First game on the docket. Ravens and Raiders. I think the shocker of Sunday. Ravens lose to the Raiders 26-23 after having a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. The Ravens are now 0-2 for the first time since 2015. Team that a lot of people picked to go to the Super Bowl. A team that a lot of people picked to win this division. Obviously, they were in the AFC Championship game last year. They were the 1 seed in the AFC last year. I don't know what happened today. Obviously, the first week of the season, they play the Chiefs, and it's kind of a back and forth toss-up game. If Likely catches that ball, you never know what happens. They might get the 2-point conversion. They're 1-0, but they're 0-2, and it is not the start that you want in the AFC. With how loaded that conference is, with how loaded their division is, you do not want to be 0-2 in the AFC, period. And the Ravens it feels weird to even think that they're 0-2 because it's been so long. They're one of the most consistent franchises in all of football. But today, it really just got away from them. I really don't know how they lost this game. I was still wrapping my head around it as I was watching the end of it. I was like, the Ravens are really going to lose this game, aren't they? Credit to the Raiders. Obviously, they played a hell of a football game. Gardner Minshew made some huge plays down the stretch. Davante Adams came up clutch all night. And then, of course, Max Crosby makes plays every single week, no matter who the opponent is, no matter if he's getting double teamed, whatever the case may be. So, shout out to the Raiders, but I think the focus here has to be on the Ravens, a team that was in the AFC Championship game that is now 0-2. It was 9-6 at halftime. Scored a Zay Flowers TD on the first drive of the second half, and it was 16-6. You're thinking right there, okay, this is exactly the Ravens' slow first half. Weird game. I don't know how they started that slow at home as well, but they take a 10-point lead right out of half, and you're thinking, okay, they're fine. Yeah, they'll be fine. They stop here, and this game can start to turn in the Ravens' direction. They get the stop they need, but then Lamar throws an interception, and that's when things started to go downhill. Because I'm going to take you through the rest of the game right now. After the Lamar interception, the Raiders get a touchdown, 3-point game just like that. You could have gone up 3 scores instead, or at least, you could have gone up 3 scores with a touchdown there, and now you're only up 3 points. Derek Henry does respond on the next drive with the huge touchdown drive for them. 79 yards in the second half for Derek Henry. So it seemed like they figured something out in the second half with Derek Henry, but it didn't necessarily always lead to them scoring points or having long, sustained drives. So that is something they have to figure out. They're 0-2. They have to figure out right now. He obviously had, like I said, 79 yards in the second half. He toted the rock in the second half really well. They went up 23-13, so back up 10 again, just like that. Raiders get a field goal on the next drive. Okay, so you're still up 7. You get the ball back right there. You can go field goal or touchdown. Now you're up 2 scores again. They punt the ball. The Ravens I'm talking about here. They punt the ball. And then the Raiders score another touchdown. Davante Adams touchdown. He had 9 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown. He couldn't be stopped in the second half, especially when they needed him. I think he dropped 1 ball, which was really weird, but he could not be stopped in the second half in pretty much all game. He was the Davante that we know him to be. That should be the backbone of the Raiders offense. Just find a way to get Davante Adams the ball no matter what it is, no matter in what situation. Davante ties the game up right there at 23-23. Punt for the Ravens. This is late in the fourth quarter now. Punt the ball, and then the Raiders get a field goal. And the Ravens could not obviously you were going to need something crazy there to tie the game up and send that thing to overtime. But I think they just got shell shocked. The Raiders score on their final 4 drives of the game: touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal. Just have to find a stop there, or have to keep scoring points yourself. Justin Tucker missed another 50-yard field goal. 3-point game right there. You know, I know it's a 50-yard field goal, and I'm not saying that's like some easy thing to hit, but when you're Justin Tucker, and all of us firmly believe that he's going to be in the Hall of Fame and deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and was widely regarded as the best kicker for maybe the last 5 to 8 years in the NFL. He's now 1 of 7 in the last 2 seasons on 50-yard field goals. So that was something that the Ravens always could rely on. It's like, hey, if we just pretty much get it across midfield, gain a couple more yards, we're going to have 3 points because Tucker's going to make us a field goal. Now, you don't want to always be settling for 3, but it was at least something that was reliable for that offense, and something that fan base, I'm sure, is shell-shocked 2 weeks in a row now, seeing Tucker miss a 50-yard field goal, or just a field goal in general. I mean, Tucker forever was just nails. Every time he stepped up, you're like, well, this game's over. I mean, rookie kicker in the Super Bowl. So in a 3-point game, you have to look at everything that, you know, happened in the game, and what could have won them the game, or what could have lost them the game. And those 3 points could have been crucial. Now, that Lamar and the offense did not play well in the second half. I told you Derek Henry ran the ball well, but I didn't think their offense moved the ball well at all. You can't lose the home opener if you're the Ravens, especially on 10 days rest after playing the opener on Thursday night. Man, not what I thought we would be talking about to lead the show today, is the Ravens being 0-2, but I think you have to. You have to. They just botched it today. They really did. And now they're in a deep hole. But let's go to the Raiders side of things, where you have to give credit. Like I said, I mean, Brock Bowers was incredible today as well. So Devontae had 9 catches for 110. Then the rookie Bowers goes 9 catches, 98 yards. And he now has the most catches by a tight end through the first 2 games of their career with 15. So he is exactly the weapon that I expected him to be when he came out of Georgia. And like I said in the season preview, just get him the ball in his hands and he'll make plays for you. He has a lot of Travis Kelce in his game in terms of just getting open and making plays happen at the tight end position. Minshew was good enough today. Made the throws when they absolutely needed them. Got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, Minshew was a guy that nobody expected to still be in the league, really, a couple of years ago. And then he has that great resurgence in Indianapolis last year and almost leads them to the playoffs. And now he's getting a real shot to be the starter. And I think they made the right decision, because a game like this, I don't know if they win if it's O'Connell over Minshew. I just think he made a lot of veteran throws in yesterday's game that proved why he's the starter. I mean, he went 30 for 38, 276 yards, a touchdown and an interception. And when your defense is playing as good, or when you have a defense that's going to carry your team like the Raiders do, you just can't he turned the ball over once, but you have to be efficient, and you just have to not put your defense in bad positions. He did that today. He did that a little bit in week 1. He just had that one bonehead play. But the backbone of this team is going to be their defense. Lamar was really not impressed with Lamar's game today. 21 of 34, 247 yards, a touchdown, interception, then 45 rushing yards. Lamar has to be able, like, if Lamar is going to truly be involved in these conversations with Mahomes and Burrow and Stroud and whoever else you want to put in that conversation, he has to win. He can't lose this game today. He just can't lose this game today. He's too good. Whether it's just like, hey, you know what? Every single time, if nothing's open, I'm going to run like I'm the best running back in football. I just think his team needed him to make a couple more plays down the stretch. And the Ravens just fall short. Crazy to think that they're 0-2. Just crazy to think that the Ravens are 0-2. I mean, they're in trouble. Let me see if I can find out who the Ravens have next week here. I got it. Let me get it right here. I mean, they go to Dallas next week, who we'll talk about in a little bit. So that game looks a little bit different now in week 3 than it did before the season starts. But regardless, they still have to go at Dallas. And then they play Buffalo. And then they play Cincinnati. So their next 3 games, you could legitimately be sitting here thinking that the Ravens are 2-3 or 1-4. If they win the next 3, great. That's exactly what you would expect from a John Harbaugh team. But I did not think they were going to lose that game today. But they did, and they're 0-2. Congrats to the Raiders on a huge win. They moved to 1-1, had to get a win today. The Raiders, if they start 0-2, you're pretty much dead in that division with Kansas City and just in general. No matter what, you cannot start 2 games behind the Chiefs. So shout out to the Raiders. 26-23 win. They moved to 1-1. Ravens moved to 0-2. All right, let's get to the blowout of Sunday. Saints at Cowboys, 44-19. Also something I didn't think we were going to be sitting here saying in week 2. The Saints offense is disgusting. Derek Carr is just out here slinging the pill. They had 5 straight touchdown drives in the first half and then another one to start the second half. So 6 straight to start the game. Touchdown drives, not scoring drives, straight up touchdown drives. One of them was that 70-yard bomb to Rashid Shaheed. And my goodness, if Alvin Kamara isn't still in his prime, then who is? To think he's still doing this at this level. 4 touchdowns yesterday. 3 in the first half. 20 carries, 115 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 catches, 65 yards, and a touchdown. Kamara was the best player on the field yesterday. Him or Carr, whichever one you want to say. But Kamara was so good. And listen to this stat. Shout out the homie who's a Saints fan that sent me this. So Mike Zimmer is obviously the new defensive coordinator of the Cowboys. Used to be the Vikings head coach. Kamara now has 10 touchdowns in the last 7 quarters. 10 touchdowns in the last 7 quarters versus a Mike Zimmer defense. Dude hates Mike Zimmer apparently. Or Mike Zimmer just has no idea what to do against Alvin Kamara. Because boy was he ridiculous yesterday. The Saints have now scored on 16 of their 20 drives this year. And I believe 2 of those were in the game last week where Carr and the starters were already out of the game. What a start for the Saints, man. I said in the season preview that I think they need to rebuild, blah, blah, blah. And that may still be the case because I said the worst case scenario is for them to be like a mediocre team and then not get a good draft pick and lose in the first round of the playoffs or barely miss it. And that still might be the case if as the season plays out. But boy, Derek Carr's numbers through 2 games, 77% completion percentage, 443 yards and 5 touchdowns. And they just beat the brakes off the Cowboys. Only team in the NFL to score 40 in the first 2 weeks. The Cowboys got ran off the field today. Cowboys can't run the ball at all. They had 68 rushing yards on 21 attempts yesterday. That is not going to get it done. Not at all. And I told you my number one concern about Dallas, because I didn't think they got better in the offseason, was the running back room. Now, I can like Zeke as a person and love who he was in college as a player, but they don't have a good running back room at all. And Dak didn't play well today either. Through 2 picks. And they weren't pretty ones. They were... The Cowboys got their shit rocked yesterday. And obviously, there's a smile on my face. It's there's nothing better when the Cowboys get rocked because the social media is just so good. You get the Stephen A. Smith laughing video. And however you feel about Stephen A., that video is always funny when the Cowboys lose. When he's just laughing. But it did not look good today. Yesterday, excuse me. McCarthy, they got to get figured out. They can't. They can't. Their defense can't get that done to them like that. Just can't happen. No, I know they had a nice win last week, but if you're a Cowboys fan, did you expect to lose 44-19 to the Saints yesterday? You didn't. So you got some shit to figure out, without a doubt. But Saints might be what we thought the Falcons could be in that division in terms of winning games, being super competitive. Now, we'll see the Falcons later tonight, obviously, on Monday Night Football. But I really like what I've seen from the Saints so far, and their defense has played well too. Like, give credit to their defense. Turned 2 interceptions on Dak today. They obviously turned over Bryce twice last week at least. I think it was at least twice, might have been 3. But, that defense is flying around too. They got Tyrann Mathieu on the back end, as a veteran. Cam Jordan still up front. Brian Brzee made some plays today, guy they drafted last year. So I like, and their offensive line looks to be dominating people, dude. Dominating people. Kamara ran wherever he wanted today. Saints look like they could be a bit of a problem here in the NFC, especially in a division that is super winnable. Now we'll get to Tampa Bay here shortly, but it's an interesting stretch for the Saints coming up here. They have Eagles, Falcons. They have the home Eagles, and then at Falcons, at Chiefs, and then they play the Buccaneers. So 2 of the next 4 weeks got a divisional opponent, and then you mix in maybe 2 of the best teams in football. Not maybe. 2 of the best teams in football in the Eagles, and then they have to go to Arrowhead. So interesting little 4-week stretch coming up here, for the Saints. Let's see how real this football team is. If they go and beat Philadelphia next week, that has to be saying something, right? I mean, it has to be. So shout out to the Saints. 2-0 start. Dennis Allen, I didn't love what I saw from him in last season, or mostly in his career, but he's got the boys playing this year. 44-19. Derek Carr leads the boys, and they start 2-0. Lions, Bucks. Bucks are 2-0, baby. Get a win on the road at Ford Field. I'm just going to continue to say this. I absolutely love Baker Mayfield. And if you don't love Baker Mayfield, what else do you want from a quarterback? Guy's got some moxie to him, got some swag. Plays hard for his teammates, will lower his shoulder into some hits. Ain't afraid to get hit, ain't afraid to talk shit. They were 7.5-point underdog coming into this game, which made 0 sense to me. They almost beat the Lions in Ford Field last year in the playoffs. But then for some reason in week 2, they think it's going to be a blowout. I didn't understand that at all. And it's not like the Lions looked insane week 1. They looked really good. They looked like a good football team, but so did the Buccaneers. How was that a 7.5-point spread? Whoever took that, congratulations to you, because that was free money the whole game. That was never going to be a 7-point Lions win. Never. Lions moved it super well in the first half, but the Bucs, shout out to them. They were missing some pieces on defense yesterday, and they were just able to hold the Lions to field goals. They were just able to hold the Lions to field goals. And Aiden Hutchinson, boy, did he have a first half. I mean, he had a great game overall. 3 sacks in the first half, though, 4.5 overall. I remember I was watching Red Zone, and it felt like every time they cut to the Lions game, it was like, oh, Aiden Hutchinson has another sack. Oh, here you go. Is it third down? Here's another Aiden Hutchinson sack. So he's clearly coming into his own, and he's wearing that C on his chest now, so you can tell he's being more vocal and being more of a leader in that locker room, and just thought he played really well today. His effort, a lot of people said he was a lot like a Watt brother coming out because of his effort. His effort was just so relentless on every single play. That's what we loved about JJ, and that's what we still love about TJ, is they just never give up on a play, similar to Max Crosby. And so he got a couple sacks today on just relentless effort. So shout out Hutch, but the Bucs put together one good drive in the first half, which they needed it, obviously, to win this game, but they really needed it to stay in the football game. the Lions put together 10 points on their first two drives of the second half to lead 16-13. So the Bucs played well in the first half, and so did the Lions, but there just wasn't a lot of scoring. The defense, shout out the defenses, I thought they played pretty well yesterday. And then late in the game, 16-13, they trade punts. Neither team can really put any sustained drive together to get into threatening areas. And then Baker makes the two plays of the game. Two plays that won them the game. He makes the run, I believe it was on third down when he breaks the linebacker's ankles and gets down for a first down. And then the very next play, he calls his own number, quarterback draw from like 10 yards out and rushes in, and then they lead by 4 right there. And that was your last score of the game because the defense is held out. But it's plays in moments like that. If you were watching that Bucs Lions game and you saw Baker make those two plays, you were like, this is a winning quarterback. Knows when the situation needs to happen, willing to put his body on the line. I just loved what I saw from Baker down the stretch today. I thought the Bucs deserved that win. I thought they earned that win. Defense held great for them. 0 points in the fourth quarter for both teams. So, I mean, both defenses played well. That's what makes that Baker play, late in the third quarter so crucial, because it put all the pressure back on the Lions going into the fourth quarter, knowing that they needed 7, or they needed 7. They couldn't settle for 2 field goal drives. I mean, they could get 2 field goal drives, but you want to put that 7 together and get the game over with. So, and when I say the Lions moved the ball well and the Bucs really didn't, 463 total yards to 216. So the Bucs just made the plays and scored the points when they have to. It's crazy to think that they beat the Lions yesterday with 216 total yards. But hey, it's the NFL, baby, and anything can happen, man. Anything can happen. Any given Sundays, isn't that what they say? Baker 12-19. They just didn't. The offense just wasn't very good, except on the drives where they scored points. He had 185 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, and then Goff was 34 for 55. 36 more pass attempts than Mayfield. He did throw for 307 yards, but he threw 2 interceptions. The Bucs forced him to throw one of those for sure. But I just didn't think the Lions missed some key opportunities in yesterday's game, and they're going to be kicking themselves if they lost that game. Dan Campbell had that fake punt in the first half. It's the Lions play a certain brand of football. It reminds me a lot of the Chargers, except they have they have a winning culture established to do those things, and Campbell's a part of that. Staley wasn't. So I think the Lions will be fine. But the Bucs are now staring down a 3-0 start because they have Denver at home next week. And then they have Philadelphia, team they beat in the playoffs last year. So I like what I see from this Buccaneers team. They still have to play Baltimore, Kansas City, San Francisco this year. So they have a tough schedule. And I guess Baltimore is a whole different, outfit than we originally thought before the season. But shout out to the Buccaneers. Shout out to Baker Mayfield for making those 2 plays down the stretch. The Bake Show is what I call him. I'll never not be a fan of him. There's no quarterback in the NFL that will go watch that play. The run play, not the touchdown, the one before that, where he runs the ball and then he gets up and he face mask to face mask with like 4 of his O linemen. There's no other quarterback in the NFL that does that. If you've seen it, please send it to me because I have not. But Baker does that on a consistent basis. He's a dog out there, and I just love the way he plays football. It's clear that he fires up his team when he makes plays like that. So shout out Baker being a leader of that football team and getting a huge win and starting 2-0. Next game is Vikings 49ers. 23-17 Vikings win. Shout out Kevin O'Connell, Sam Darnold, and that defense, man. 2-0 start for the Vikings. Who would have guessed that? Lost a lot of pieces. Lost Kirk Cousins, lost Danielle Hunter. Everyone thought, are they in rebuild mode? Are they going to try to get a quarterback? Nope. They're doing exactly what the Buccaneers did last year, which is pick up a quarterback that nobody wants, nobody believes in. You don't have to pay him a bunch. And let's go build the rest of the team around him pretty good, and let's go win some football games with great coaching and good defense. And they've done that through 2 weeks. They beat the piss out of the Giants last week because the Giants are not very good. But this is a statement win. 49ers come to their house defending NFC champs, and the Vikings just say, fuck that. Their defense and special teams showed out. An interception, 6 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and a massive blocked punt as well. I mean, when your defense and special teams plays like that, that's winning football in every facet. Because the blocked punt led to a field goal. And the Niners, listen to this by the Vikings defense. You might have been watching this game, so you might already know. But the Niners went on a 15-play, 88-yard, 9-minute drive, and the Vikings held them on 4th and goal. I mean, just when you make plays like that, you get a blocked punt, you deserve to win the football game because you can take 3 there, obviously, but without the blocked punt, it's only a 3-point game, and the Niners probably kicked that there. So, you know, Jefferson had a 97-yard touchdown. Oh my gosh! On the second play after they stopped him on that 9-minute drive, he just flipped the game on its head so fast. It's like you think you're gonna get at least 3, if not 7, if you're the Niners, and then boom, 2 plays later, Justin Jefferson is literally going from his end zone to your end zone. Now he did leave the game in the second half, which I didn't love, but they said he's going to be okay. He said he's going to be okay, so I'm not going to get too deep into that. They 13-7 lead at the half. You know, anytime you're beating the Niners, you have to feel good about it. Now you have to go close that second half out, which they did. Because Purdy throws an interception, Minnesota gets a touchdown on the next play, 20-7 lead right there, and they're fully in control with their building and the skull behind them. I just loved the way the Vikings played today, man. And also just shout out Kevin O'Connell. They got something changing around there, and it's because Kevin O'Connell knows how to run a program. He knows how to run a program. It should have been 27-7. Aaron Jones fumbled on the 1-yard line. I felt bad for him because he had a really good game yesterday. But that also, when I saw that, I was like, oh, are the Niners about to get back in this game now? And they did get back in the game. 98-yard drive from there. So we fumbled on the 2. So now you're looking at 20-14, one possession game. But Darnold comes up huge. The next drive, he made 2 key throws on 3rd down. 2 massive throws on 3rd down. One of them was up the seam on his right side. There was 3 guys there at the end of it. He didn't throw it into triple coverage, but he just let his receiver let him fall down with it, and then he made another one on the left side of the field late in that drive. Led to a field goal. Puts them back up 9. Gives them the breathing room that they need to go out there and finish the football game. Darnold was 17-26, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. You had to watch some of the plays that he made to know how good he played in certain moments of this game. Like I mentioned, those 2 third downs. Just Darnold isn't making those throws a couple of years ago. He's just so much more confident, and that's shout out to Kevin O'Connell and obviously spending that year last year in San Francisco. He just looked so much more confident today down the stretch, playing against his old team. And I think he really wanted to win that game, knowing like, hey, I could have been your guys' quarterback too. Obviously, they were never going to move on from Purdy, but I think Darnold wanted to show like, hey, I'm a guy in this league too, and you're going to have to see me in the NFC as well. Purdy was 28-36, 319 yards, a touchdown, and interception. 6 sacks today, man. Like they got up in his grill, in his business today. He didn't look like himself out there. I don't know if that was just because of the hits or what the Vikings defense was doing, but Vikings looked very, very good today, fellas. Very good. Yesterday, Vikings looked very good on Sunday. I couldn't have loved what I saw from them more. I just thought there was grit there. There was toughness there, and then there was a closability in the end of that game. They went and closed that game. Now they have a stretch coming up where we could really find out how good the Vikings are. Texans come in next week. They go to Lambeau. You have to expect Jordan Love's back by then. I certainly do. Then they have the Jets and the Lions both at home. So they got four real games coming up here. 4 real games. 2 of them being divisional, obviously. And then the bad man, Aaron Rodgers, comes to town. So Vikings fans won't love seeing him back there. But shout out the Vikings. Great win yesterday. Shout out to Sam Darnold. Love the way he's playing. Deserves it. Earned it. Happy for him. Cali kid. Don't love that he went to USC, but guy was put through some shit in New York because of Adam Gase in a bad franchise. So, and then as well in Carolina. So happy to see he started 2-0. And shout out to the Vikings picking up a huge dub over the San Francisco 49ers. Next up, Jets at Titans. Jets win 24-17. This is a battle of 0-1s going at it, and whoever lost this game was going to be in pretty bad shape. Jets in the AFC with that division. Titans in general being 0-2. You don't think they're going to be that great of a football team anyway this year, so starting 0-2 is not a great look. I thought it was a must-win for the Jets today. Like, could you imagine the New York media waiting all this time for Aaron Rodgers, then he starts 0-2? So they needed to win this game today. And they did. It wasn't pretty by any means. Not at all. Will Levis did some more dumb shit today. I mean, they get a Calvin Ridley touchdown just on the first drive of the game. They're in the red zone, or at least in field goal range on the next drive. Will Levis fucking hurdles a D lineman that's jumping at his feet and then falling over just hucks the ball backwards. You guys all saw it. I mean, what the fuck was that? He's lost them 2 games now, in my opinion. He lost them week 1 when he throws that pick 6. And I know it was a 7-point win by the Jets, but 3 points there and you're up 10-0 completely changes the tenor of that game. And it's undeniable that it completely changes the tenor of that game. Because he throws a pick on the next drive. 2 bonehead play in a row ends drives for the Titans. And you saw after the first one that I was just talking about, the head coach, when he was coming off the field, he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Because that's what we were all thinking. Like, what the fuck is he doing? I mean, just trying to make plays that make no sense. Just take the sack and kick the field goal and go up 10, man. Like, it's the first half. Two turnovers in the first half, one by each team. Calvin Ridley touchdown. I mean, this was an ugly fucking game in the first half. I was not watching much of this game because I was like, oh, I hope the Jets offense plays well today. And then every time you looked up, you were like, what is this game? I mean, it was not good. Jets get a touchdown right at a half. And then they get the blocked field goal. And they go up 17-10. And just like that, they're right in control of the game. Could have been a 13-3 game at the half. Could have been 13-0. The Titans threw this game away. I mean, Will Levis he did have that nice touchdown pass to Calvin Ridley down the sideline, which tied the game. But then the Jets went on the 7-play, 74-yard drive, and then shout out Braylon Allen. 2 touchdowns today. Youngest player in the NFL, youngest player to score in the Super Bowl era in NFL history. And he's a fucking tank. He scored that touchdown with 4 minutes left, and you kind of knew I would have been more surprised if the Titans scored there than I am that the reality of the situation, which is the Jets stopped them. They got the huge sack on 3rd down. 3rd and goal, I think it was actually, when the Titans just needed a field goal. And then Levis made a great throw on 4th and goal. It just, he guarded the goal line on 4th and goal. So Rodgers played pretty well yesterday. He was efficient, didn't throw for 200 yards, but he did have some key throws to Garrett Wilson, and then he had 2 touchdowns, 176 yards, 18 of 30. No turnovers. That's what you expect from Rodgers. He does not look. He looks like he's 40. I'll just say that. Like he looks like he's 40. I'm not saying he's not still good. You watch him throw. He can still throw. If you give him a clean pocket, he can still throw the ball literally anywhere on the field. So, it's going to look different for this Jets team. They really need to get the run game going. Like they need the run game to be the strength of this team if they're going to win playoff games and if they're going to take the pressure off of Rodgers. Will Levis, 192 yards, touchdown and interception, and then whatever the fuck that play was. It's just, he has a lot of physical traits, but he makes a lot of really dumb decisions. And I think he's one of the main reasons they've lost these first 2 weeks because their defense really hasn't played that bad. They gave up. They really didn't give up a lot last week because that last touchdown for the Bears was a pick six. So the Titans have some shot to win games, but they need Levis to stop turning the ball over and making ridiculous decisions. Jets get their first win of the season, first real win in the Aaron Rodgers era, 24-17. They still have some work to do, but you'd rather be focusing on that work coming off a win. They got the Patriots, Broncos, Vikings, Bills. So 4-game home stretch coming up after they go on the road for the first 2 weeks. So Patriots, Broncos, Vikings, Bills. You have to think they can win. Those games are all winnable. 2 divisionals, and then some teams that you probably think that they can beat. So got to go 3-1 in that stretch at least, if not 4-0. But I like what the Jets can be because their defense is just so good. If they can get Rodgers and everybody else cooking. Seahawks Patriots is the next game. Seahawks go to New England and get the 23-20 overtime victory. I did not catch a lot of this game. But every time I looked up at this game, it felt like if the Seahawks were on offense, DK Metcalf or Jackson Smith and Jigba was catching the ball. I think what did they go yesterday? Combined 22 grabs on Geno's 33 completions. I mean, they were all over the place. And I must say, even though the Patriots lost yesterday, completely wrong. Completely wrong. I like Gerard Mayo as a player, and he has brought that dog of what he was as a linebacker to this locker room, and I think they trust him, and I think they like him, and I think the new start for everybody in the building probably is pretty good. Everybody probably respected Bill, loved Bill, realized what he did for the game, but maybe didn't always love his tone or the way he went about certain situations. I have to imagine certain players are much happier with what the relationship with their coach is and kind of how things are treated. That's just me from an outside looking in, but they played better today or yesterday, and I was completely wrong. Both teams punted on the first drive, and then it was 5 straight scoring drives to end the half. 14-13 New England lead there. So they were playing well in the first half, and I was thinking, man, like this football team is nothing like what we thought. Tough, physical, can run the ball. Jacoby's not going to make dumb decisions. Their defense is solid. Seattle did get a field goal before the half to lead 17-13. And then an 11-play, 66-yard drive late in the third, early fourth gave the Pats the 20-17 lead. That was a great drive by them, just balanced. Needed it after just a lull and some offensive effectiveness in that game. And then Seattle punt before an 80-play, 5-yard drive. While the Patriots are punting, the Seahawks blocked that punt. 48-yard field goal with 4 minutes left. That would have put the Patriots up 6. Would have forced the Seahawks to go get a touchdown to extend the game. Instead, they blocked that one. Seattle goes and gets the field goal. We go to overtime. Patriots get the ball first. They don't score. Now the other team just needs 3 and the game's over. And Geno led that team down there. And they get the field goal to win the game. They kicked that thing on second down. think there was a lot of 3.5 bettors out there yesterday. Sucks for you. But what, are you going to lose your job? Or are you going to get roasted in the papers for rushing the ball in second down and then somebody fumbles and Patriots go down and score and win that game? No. Feel bad for you 3.5 bettors, but Mike McDonald had to make the decision that was best for the team, and he did. Let's go through those wide receiver numbers from Seattle yesterday. So DK went 10 receptions, 129 yards, and a touchdown, that long touchdown. And then Smith and Jigba, who was there, he was the main target today. 12 catches for 117 yards. This is exactly what we thought he would be coming out of Ohio State when he was touted as, the best receiver that had come out of there, of that kind of core of guys that we had seen come in the league. And then, of course, Marvin becomes that just 2 years later. They also have Lockett, though. So they have a real trio of guys that Geno can trust that can really make plays for them. Geno was 33 of 44 for 327 yards and a touchdown. No Kenneth Walker today, and Geno carried him. Thought he played super well. Didn't turn the ball over, made the throws when he needed to make the throws, and he was clutch in overtime. Charbonnet really couldn't run the rock at all today, 38 yards just for him. So they had to rely on the right arm of Geno, and he got it done. Brissett, Jacoby, 15 to 27, 149 yards and a touchdown. But the team as a whole had 185 rushing yards. So the question marks about that offensive line have not proved to be as big of questions, because they can tote that rock. And Ramondre Stevenson looked great today. And Antonio Gibson, man, he looked really, really solid as well. Tough loss for the Patriots. That blocked field goal really did them in. But shout out to the Seahawks for coming back and getting that thing done. Mike McDonald, 2-0 to start his coaching career. 23-20 overtime win for the Seahawks. Shout out the 12th man. That was a great win for the Seahawks, and they start 2-0 in that division. That the Niners we already talked about are 1-1. Why am I blanking on the rest of it? Rams. We'll talk about them later in the day, and then the Cardinals. Boy, we'll talk about them later too. But huge to start 2-0 in that division, especially when the Niners are just 1-1. 23-20 overtime win, Seahawks over Patriots. All right, let's go to my team now. Chargers at Panthers. 26-3 win. That game was never in doubt for me. I thought that game was over before the game even started. It sounds disrespectful, but did you ever think a Jim Harbaugh coach football team was going to lose to the Panthers? I didn't. Those boys came out to play today. Offense looked way better. Now we're playing the Panthers, so you take everything a little bit with a grain of salt. But hey, man, Chargers are 2-0 for the first time since 2012. That's crazy to think about when you guys all at home know how much talent the Chargers have had on some of their teams. First 2-0 start since 2012. I said this to my other Charger fan buddies that game yesterday is a 6-point win with Brandon Staley as the head coach. I firmly believe that we would have kept them in the game. We would have made dumb decisions. Shout out to Harbaugh and this staff for just taking that game seriously, getting it done, getting it out of the way. It was never in doubt. Quentin Johnston, best game of his career. As a guy who talked a lot of, or was just really, really disappointed in the Chargers draft pick last year, when you don't get Jackson Smith and Jigba, you don't get Take Dell, you don't get Zay Flowers, you don't get Jordan Addison out of that draft, and you get Quentin Johnson and all those guys, and you don't get Puka, and all those guys go crazy in year one, and you're sitting with a guy who has the drops. You're thinking, man, we really missed out on a generational wide receiver class. Quentin, he had the first touchdown of the game and the second touchdown of the game. Both really good plays. The first one finally makes a contested catch, and it looked like all those training camp videos that Chargers fans have been looking for. Bryce throws a terrible interception, and then J.K. Dobbins, 43-yard rushing touchdown, and the Chargers led 20-0 at the half. At that point, and the game was over. But J.K. Dobbins, man, he's the key to the Chargers season, and he has been nothing but productive and explosive. He looks like Dobbins at Ohio State. Now, some of you may say, well, he did a lot of this stuff in the Ravens too, and that's fair. But when he was at Ohio State, I believe they called him JK all day, and he would have like 200-yard rushing games regularly, 150-yard games. JK, 17 carries, 131 yards, and a touchdown yesterday. He now has 266 rushing yards in his first 2 games, which are the most by any Charger running back in the first 2 games. And he's also the first Charger running back with back-to-back 100-yard rushing games since Melvin Gordon did that in 2016. 8 years since the Chargers have had a running back go for back-to-back 100-yard games. I love Austin Eckler. He had plenty of games over 100 all-purpose yards. But he played over 100 career games for the Chargers and never had back-to-back games of rushing over 100. I'm very happy to have J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And shout out the O-line. Man, they are moving bodies up there. A whole new group put together. I mean, not a whole new group, but Slater and Zion are next to each other. Zion Johnson for the first. They were together last year, but you had a new center in Bradley Bozeman. You moved Trey Pipkins from right tackle to right guard. And then you had a rookie in Joel, and those dudes are just making bodies move. The Panthers were so bad yesterday. Chargers defense, I can say, played amazing, but the Panthers offense is pretty bad. They had 159 total yards, 7 first downs. Bryce Young was 18 of 26 for 84 yards and an interception. I'm not a mathematician, but 18 completions for 84 yards is not very good. Bryce looks like I don't want to use the word broken just yet, but man, he looks, I'm like, I don't even know who this, if you would have erased my memory from everything I would have known about Bryce Young at Alabama and just watched the last 2 seasons, I would have said, how the fuck was this guy the number 1 pick? It looks horrible, man. He like the interception he threw today was just like, how do you even throw that ball ever at any level of quarterback you're playing at? So to say that I'm worried about Bryce Young is an understatement. The Panthers look so bad, but it doesn't matter to me. As a Chargers fan, I could care less what that franchise looks like, but did feel good to get a win yesterday and start 2-0 as a Chargers fan. They go at Pittsburgh next week, and then they have they host the Chiefs for the first Chiefs game of the season. I think the Chargers can beat the Steelers, should beat the Steelers, but I'm never going to take a Mike Tomlin team for granted. I think that's probably a 3-point game, just because both defenses have looked very, very good to start the year. It'll be interesting to see if the Chargers' ability to run the football will be the same against Pittsburgh, because that's a scheme that they know pretty well. Greg Roman was in that division for a while, so they've seen that scheme. They've seen those backs for a while. Wonder if it'll be a Herbert breakout game, because he did not put up big numbers again today. What did he do? Or yesterday? 14 of 20, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns and interception. So Herbert just didn't really have to do anything yesterday again, which as a Chargers fan is beautiful. If he doesn't have to do anything and we're winning games, hell yeah, let's wait for him to have to do those things in the playoffs. So my Chargers get a win, 26-3, 2-0 start. Feeling really good as a Chargers fan. Love what I'm seeing from them just in general as a football team. And shout out Harbaugh, man. There ain't nobody in the league like him. Next game, 3 more games in the morning slate. We're going to go through these ones pretty quickly because with 10 games on, you cannot watch in detail all 10 games. So we'll kind of go through these last 3 morning slate games quicker than the other ones. Commanders versus Giants. Washington wins 21-18 in the field goal fest. Commanders get their first win of the Dan Quinn, Jaden Daniels era. Shout out to them. like I said, I did not watch much of this game, and it wasn't very pretty when I did watch. Giants led 12-9 at the half. Washington, we'll get to the Washington stat in here in a second. Giants 2 touchdown drives. One of them was a Malik Neighbors touchdown. So Malik Neighbors played out of his mind yesterday, especially for who he plays for. 10 catches for 127 yards, a touchdown on 18 targets. Daniel Jones threw the ball 28 times. 18 of those targets were to Malik Neighbors. There was a clear conversation after week 1. Throw the fucking ball to number 1. He is our best player on offense. Just get him the ball. So shout out Malik getting his first touchdown of the season. But Washington, they scored on all 7 drives. They had 7 drives yesterday. They scored on all 7 of them. And if you know the score, you know how that's possible. They kicked the field goal on all 7 drives. The time of possession was the reason they could win this game. Kicking 7 field goals, 37 minutes time of possession for the Commanders. That's going to win you a lot of football games. You would like a touchdown mixed in there for sure, but divisional win's a win with a rookie quarterback as well. Shout out to Austin Seibert, MVP of the game. He was signed this week, or I guess you're watching this on Monday. He was signed last week by the team, and he made all 7 field goals. 27-yarder, 45-yarder, 26-yarder, 27, 29, 33, and 30. He's the 10th kicker in NFL history with 7 field goals. That's the second most ever in a game because Rob Baronis hit 8 in 2007. But shout out to Austin Seibert, man, getting signed the week of and then hitting 7 field goals. Now, if you look at all those numbers, 45 is the highest, and then there's 2 in the 30s and a lot in the 20s. That means the Commanders could not score in the red zone, which might be a cause for concern, but got to score the ball in the red zone, got to punch that thing in. But Austin Seibert probably just secured him a job for the rest of the season, if not a full contract extension already. Jaden Daniels, 23 of 29, 226 yards, 17 carries for 133 yards. Like I said, I didn't watch much of this. He was efficient today. I don't know how much he threw the ball down the field. 17 carries again. That's a lot of numbers. That's a lot of carries on a quarterback's body. The team as a whole, 215 rushing yards as a team. So they fucking ran the ball down the Giants' throat yesterday. Daniel Jones, I gave him a bunch of shit last week and said he would be benched. Huge bounce back game for him yesterday. 16 to 28, 178 yards and 2 touchdowns. So his numbers look better. But inevitably they are 0-2. And nothing else matters but your win-loss record during the season. So shout out the Commanders, Dan Quinn, Jaden Daniels getting their first win. Adam Peters, the GM, of getting their first win of their new era. Happy for you, PFT. All right, let's go Browns at Jaguars. Browns get their first win of the season, 18-13. This was a weird game, an ugly game, a gross game, a game that was not fun to watch, and I didn't watch much of it because it was shit. The Browns led 13-3 at the half. Their first half numbers, 36 plays, 182 yards, 20 minutes time of possession. They had a 16-play drive, a 12-play drive, and an 8-play drive. They just dominated the football in the first half. The Jaguars just never touched it at all. I'd like to see the Browns scored more than just 1 touchdown in the first half of that time of possession. Jaguars cut it to 3 midway through the 4th. And then Corey Bojorquez made the play of the game. You probably don't even know who that is. That's the Browns punter. Down the ball at the 1-yard line, and then the Browns get a safety right after that. Give them a 5-point lead. Game was pretty much over from there. Trevor Lawrence tried to make some plays at the end of the game with a throw to the end zone. Browns defense finally showed up today. I thought they played much better. Don't really know what that means against the Jaguars offense as of yet in week 2, but they made the plays when they had to. Sean Watson, 23 of 34, 186 yards, whatever. And Trevor Lawrence, 14 of 30 for 220 yards. Lawrence has got to figure it out if they're going to win games this year. They got to figure that offense out quickly if they are going to win games this year. They blew the game in the second half last week, and then they just couldn't really do anything against the Browns yet again today, as the Browns moved to 1-1 and the Jaguars are now 0-2. after an 18-13 loss to the Browns yesterday. All right, last game of the morning slate, Packers versus Colts. Packers won 16-10. I didn't watch any of this game. Just be fully honest with you. Whatever was on Red Zone is all I saw, and it was a whole lot of fucking nothing. Packers get their first win of the season. Colts move to 0-2. Packers, 164 rushing yards in the first quarter, 261 for the game, which I don't really know how that's possible when the Colts knew coming into the game that they wanted to rush the football. The Packers, Jordan Love was out. Malik Willis was making the start. But the Packers just dominated the line of scrimmage yesterday. Colts' first 5 drives. Here they are. 21 plays they ran. This is all first half and then the first drive of the second half. 3 punts, an interception, 1 turnover on downs, 94 total yards. To say Anthony Richardson was pretty bad and that offense was pretty bad yesterday would be an understatement. This is a bad loss for the Colts. I know it's a road game, but without Jordan Love, you got to feel like you have to win that football game. Malik Willis, 12 of 14, 122 yards and a touchdown, and then 41 yards rushing. Did what he was asked to. Don't turn it over. Be efficient. Run the offense. Josh Jacobs, 32 carries for 151 yards. He fumbled on the 1 yard line when they were up 10-0, or else this game would have been way out of hand. Before that, I felt bad for him because he deserved a touchdown yesterday with how good he ran. And then Anthony Richardson was 17 of 34 for 204 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions. It was not pretty at all. He threw some bad balls yesterday, and Colts fans, could be a long season. 0-2 is not the start you wanted. Feels good that the Jags are 0-2. But that's tough business. Packers beat the Colts 16-10, and that wraps up your morning slates of games. All right, let's move to the afternoon now. Can I just say this before we get to the afternoon game? 10 games in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. Fuck that. Like, that sucks. That is not fun. Please it helps you focus on the 3 games easier, but man, come on. Don't give us just 10 and then give us 3. That feels like going from driving in a Tesla or going 0 to 60 in a Tesla from going 0 to 60 in a fucking PT Cruiser or some shit. Come on, brother. We need more games than that in the afternoon, but I'm done complaining. Chiefs, Bengals. Chiefs start 2-0. Bengals start 0-2 with 26-25 is your final. A lot of shit goes the Chiefs' ways, ladies and gentlemen. They win another game in a fashion that a lot of people, if you're not a Chiefs fan, are not going to be happy with. That pass interference call late in the game on 4th and 16. If you're a Bengals fan, that's super rough. But the Bengals had every opportunity to win this game. They won the turnover battle 3-1. They had 2 turnovers in the first half. Since he scored on 4 of their first 5 drives in the first half, guess what? 3 of them were field goals, so it doesn't matter. Because it was 16-10 at the halftime, and the Chiefs turned the ball over twice, and you've scored 4 times, but it amounts to 16 points. And the Bengals know better than anybody how to beat this team in Arrowhead, especially. KC comes out with a 13-play 70-yard drive right out of the half. Their offensive tackle, Wanya Morris, caught the touchdown. Now they're up 17-16, just like that. The Bengals cannot settle for field goals against the Chiefs. Nobody can, really, but the Bengals especially. Bengals did respond with a 70-yard drive of their own, and they scored on 4th and goal. I don't know how to say that guy's last name, but he's sick. 81, I think, they missed the 2-point conversion, so now they're up 5. I think they should have just gone up 6, but I understand it because you're playing KC. Mahomes gets an interception. Mahomes throws an interception, but then 3 plays later on the next Bengals drive, Burrow strip sack fumble, and just like that, the Chiefs have the lead again. Just like that. The Bengals are up 5 late in the game, and they're in the fourth quarter, and they're thinking, hey, 3 points puts us up 8, great. 7 points maybe puts this game away. Burrow can't fumble that ball. Just can't do it. 23-22. Bengals retake the lead on the next drive. 25-23. Chiefs go 3 and out. And now you're thinking, okay, the Bengals they need to win the game right now. They can't get the ball back to Mahomes. Well, they gave the ball back to Mahomes. They get the penalty call on 4th and 6, and then it's 4th and 16, and then Mahomes gets the PI call. Harrison Butker makes the game-winning field goal. And for the 3rd consecutive season, the Bengals are 0-2. I don't know if it's we or if it's me, but the way we think about the Bengals, or I think about the Bengals, may be fraudulent. They feel fraudulent at so many different times during NFL seasons. And that Super Bowl run might have been lightning in a bottle. I'm not sure, but it's just disgusting what happened yesterday and how the Bengals pissed that game away against the Chiefs. PI call doesn't help, but unless you're a Bengals fan like that, you can make that call. You don't love it, but you can make it. Mahomes wasn't even very good yesterday. 18-25, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But they did have 149 rushing yards. But when Mahomes plays like that, you cannot lose that game if you're the Bengals, especially when you're 0-1. Burrow was 23-36 for 258 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Bengals only had 74 rushing yards as a team. That was the difference in being able to run the football. Burrow looked great yesterday. Everybody worrying about his wrist, I think, can settle down. He looks fine to me. They just got to get T. Higgins in the rest of that offense going. They miss Joe Mixon so much. They don't have a run game like they used to. They don't have that dump-off ability. They don't have that screen game that they used to. If their division looked a little bit different, I would say they're in more trouble. But you can't feel great about where the Bengals are right now. And I'm the idiot that picked them to go to the Super Bowl. That feels very far-fetched from happening. I would like to see the rest of their schedule the rest of the way. Let's check this thing out. I mean, 0-2, man. Bengals and Ravens, both 0-2. That division is wide open now for a team that we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. So good news if you're a Bengals fan. Commanders at Panthers, your next 2 games. No disrespect to those 2 teams, but if the Bengals lose one of those 2 games, they're not going to make the playoffs because then they have to play the Ravens. They can salvage their season. It's going to take a lot of work, though. It's going to take a lot of work. Still have to play the Steelers twice. Still have to play the Browns twice. Still have to play the Ravens twice. Still have to play the Eagles. Still have to play the Chargers. Still have to play the Cowboys. They have a tough schedule. No ways around it. But the Chiefs continue to win games. Only the Chiefs win. 26-25. They're 2-0. Bengals are 0-2 for the 3rd consecutive season. All right, let's get to the blowout of the afternoon window. I hope you were watching this in the first quarter. Cardinals over the Rams, 41-10. I have 3 words for you. Marvin fucking Harrison. 2 touchdowns on the first 7 offensive plays of the game for the Cardinals. Everybody that freaked out last week or this or that, whatever the fucking game plan was last week to not get him involved was dumb. Because boy, is he so good. 4 receptions for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter alone. Boy, he was cooking Tre'Davious White's ass on the outside. Cooking. That was barbecue chicken alert every single time they put Tre'Davious White on him. And I like Tre'Davious White. I'm not trying to bag on him, but wow. The Cardinals looked insane today. Marvin didn't even catch another ball after the first quarter because the game was pretty much over. The 3rd drive that Arizona had. So they're up 14-0 after seven offensive snaps and 2 Marvin Harrison Jr. touchdowns. 3rd Arizona drives a 13-play, 99-yard drive, capped off by Kyler Murray doing shit that only a couple quarterbacks ever have been able to do. I think he made 3 different people miss. It almost felt like, if you guys can remember, the Steph Curry versus Clippers play where he's dribbling through all of them and then he just steps back and shoots. It's when Steve Kerr's like, oh no, and then he makes it. That's kind of what that play felt like from Kyler, because he caps it off. He throws that thing and he turns around before the receiver catches that ball. It felt like a little bit like that Steph Curry look away 3. If Kyler's going to play like this, the Cardinals are must-watch TV. Must-watch. Because if James Conner's still running people over and running through a motherfucker's face, and they got Marvin Harrison Jr. on the outside being a true number 1 receiver, and Kyler can stay healthy, this will be really fun, because they scored in the first 2 drives out of halftime as well, and it was 34-3, and this game was over. Over. If you remember back to the season preview, I believe I said the Cardinals were 1-11 against the division the last 2 seasons, so that's a huge divisional win, especially against a guy that they never beat in Sean McVay, to move to 1-1, and they moved the Rams to 0-2. Cooper Kupp, ankle injury, already down Puka for the next 3 weeks. If they lose Kupp, this thing could get ugly fast, because I don't know who else Stafford's going to throw to. Niners come to their house next week. That's never an easy game. They go to Chicago, and then they have the Packers. So winnable games, but if you don't have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, I don't know if they have another Puka Nacua waiting for him or what, but Rams were a hot, sexy pick to win this division, and they're now 0-2. And so you look at that that division. 49ers are 1-1. Cardinals are 1-1. Rams are 0-2. And who's on top? Seattle Seahawks at 2-0. So that's going to be a competitive division once again. It usually is, but the 49ers have just been so good the last couple of years that they wrap it up so quickly. But that thing's wide open this year. Cardinals are firmly in there in that division if they can get Kyler to stay healthy and can continue to get Marvin to play out of his mind. But they blew the brakes off the Rams 41-10 at home yesterday. Last game of the afternoon slate. I'll be honest, I did not watch much of this game either. And if those other 2 games, let's be honest, all of us were watching that Chiefs Bengals game. I had the Cardinals game and then on the different TV, and then I had the Steelers game on the laptop. Steelers at Broncos, 13-6 win. Just an insane amount of offense in this game. Psych. Steelers are 2-0 though, and the Broncos are now 0-2. The game started with 3 straight 3-and-outs, guys. You could tell early that this was not going to be an offensive explosion. Steelers did string together a nice 12-play, 78-yard drive. They got their first touchdown of the season, a Darnell Washington touchdown. That dude is so big from Georgia, like 6'5", whatever he weighs. They led 10-0 at the half. And then it was 3 field goals in the second half, guys. It was not very exciting. I don't know how many of you guys legitimately watched all this unless you're a Steelers fan. But hey, if you're a Steelers fan, you guys are 2-0. And that's all that matters. Doesn't matter what it looks like at all. 2-0. And Fields played well again today. Well enough for you guys to win. Took care of the football, 13-20, 117 yards and a touchdown. And they had 141 rushing yards on 36 carries as a team today. It is evident what their team is built on, and it is defense and running the ball. Bo Nix, 20 of 35, 246, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions once again. The Broncos just aren't very good, and when you have to eat that dead cap money that Russell Wilson, you're starting a lot of guys that probably would not be in your building, let alone on the starting lineup. But it wasn't pretty at all, and I didn't watch much of this game. But the Steelers won. Shout out to Justin Fields starting 2-0. Shout out to the Steelers starting 2-0. See if I can't find their schedule. See who they got next. They won't. It's hard to even say that the Steelers won't keep winning games like this because they literally started, 11-0 a couple years ago, and you were like, this is the worst undefeated team I've ever seen in my life. So they got the Chargers next week. I'm not. I don't think the Steelers will win that game. But hey, you never know. Those teams are built very similarly right now. I just think there's a massive quarterback edge to the Chargers. Let's see if Herbert can exploit that and the rest of the team can play well. But then they play the Colts, Cowboys, and Raiders. So we'll see. I mean, the Steelers defense will keep them in most, if not all, of their games. So they start 2-0. Broncos start 0-2 with a 13-6 thriller in Denver today. And that wraps up your morning slate, or that wraps up all the games from this afternoon and this morning, yesterday afternoon and yesterday morning. And I am going to finish watching Sunday Night Football right now, and then we'll have a full reaction to that coming up afterwards. And then we'll have a full reaction to that coming up afterwards, and we'll do some UFC reaction on Wednesday, so I can get full deep into the UFC reaction, because this one will be long, and we'll just keep it football specific. But I'm gonna enjoy the rest of this game, and then I'll give you guys a reaction coming up right after this. All right, Sunday Night Football recap. Texans take care of the Bears 19-3. They moved to 2-0. Bears moved to 1-1. Was not an eventful second half. I mean, I guess if you want to call the end of the game eventful, you can do that. I wouldn't categorize it as that. The second half was very sloppy, but the Texans came out in the first half and started hot and got their business done in the first half, and then just found a way to win in the second half. The Bears offense continues to show that they're playing with a rookie quarterback. No Keenan Allen tonight for them, as well. And safety blanket, if you would, for Caleb Williams. So the offense really struggled for the Bears tonight. I mean, to be fair, both offenses didn't look super explosive. But the Texans get the job done. They scored on 4 of the 5 drives in the first half. They led 16-10. I don't know how it was 16-10, but the Texans, Kaimi Fairbairn continues to, make field goals from wherever on the field, and he gave them the lead in the first half. And there was just really no offense in the second half. I mean, the second half, the score was 3-3, and there was 8 combined punts, 3 combined turnovers, and then 2 field goals. So it was sloppy in the second half. Credit to both defenses. I thought both defenses played pretty well last night, all things considered. The Texans defense really played well. It's just hard to gauge against a rookie quarterback how much of that is because of them, how much of that is because of him holding on to the ball for a little bit too long in certain occasions in Caleb Williams. But Bears only had 205 total yards last night. They gave up 7 sacks, and then Caleb Williams obviously threw those 2 turnovers. So the offense has not been good through 2 weeks for the Bears. A new offensive coordinator, a lot of new skill position players, and then a new quarterback as well. But this defense is good enough for them to win that division. I firmly believe that. I think their defense is good enough to win that division. It's just all on Caleb Williams in the offense. They have to find a way to get some things going. I thought Caleb held onto the ball for too long in many occasions tonight, and he tried to make plays that you can't make in the NFL. This is not USC anymore. This is not Pac-12 defenses. This is not any of that. He made some decisions that are just bad, and he took a lot of hits tonight. You could tell he was grimacing after a couple of those hits. Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson hit him hard a couple of times. He had to run a bunch tonight, which leads to extra hits as well. So Caleb was getting beat up last night. It was a rough game for him once again. He ended up finishing with 174 yards and 2 touchdowns. A little empty on the yardage, if you ask me. There were some plays there at the end when they were just playing off coverage, and he got a couple of plays. But this is not what a lot of people probably would have expected for Caleb Williams. We all said, including myself, that he was coming into the best offensive situation of any rookie quarterback maybe ever. But it just proves that it doesn't matter how good of a team is surrounding you. You're still a rookie quarterback. I think Ben Roethlisberger is the only one that's had that much success as a rookie, and obviously he had a Steelers defense that was legendary. But Caleb is still getting his feet wet in the NFL. You can tell he's still getting used to the speed of the game and what he can and can't do and the throws he can and can't make. His accuracy downfield was pretty awful last night, if you ask me. There was a lot of throws where you can at least give your receiver a chance to make a play on the ball, and there was no ability for DJ Moore or Roma Dunze to make a play on the ball on a couple of those throws. So don't know exactly what's going on there in terms of placement. If he's just things are just he's speeding himself up because of the pressure, or if he's struggling with the accuracy down the field. But I definitely no panic if you're a Bears fan, but you would have really liked to see the offense play better tonight. With how bad the offense played tonight, to only lose by 6 is a credit to the defense. The Bears defense is going to keep them in games. The score could have looked a lot worse, but they have the the punch out there in the red zone on the Texans, and they end up making this thing a game late with a field goal, and then can't get the touchdown to tie the game or win it. But the Bears defense, I hope it doesn't lead to some of the things that happened last year with or in years past when they play great defense, but the offense doesn't show up, and then those guys tend to get frustrated and stop playing as hard towards the end of the season. But if Caleb and this offense can figure it out, the Bears can be really good this year because their defense is that special. They have real legit pieces all over that defense. Montez Sweat, Brisker, Kyler Gordon, Jalen Johnson. I like a lot of their pieces on the defense. They just have to find a way to move the ball offensively and keep and sustain drives and put points on the board and give their defense a rest and then let them pin their ears back and go attack. As for the Texans, you're 2-0. I mean, don't apologize for being 2-0. There are some things that need to be cleaned up. 12 penalties for 115 yards last night. That's not going to win you games in the playoffs. It's not going to win you games against great teams. You cannot afford to commit that many penalties and expect to win games consistently. I think D'Amico knows that, and they'll get most of that stuff cleaned up going into next week, hopefully. But they might be without Joe Mixon. Now, I didn't see an injury update after the game, but he did leave the game, and it was a hip drop tackle, and I think they were saying his ankle. I can't remember exactly, but can't afford to lose Mixon. He's going to be their workhorse back all season for them, and they really need the balance that he provides for that offense for them to reach the potential that they need to go to. I thought CJ was good tonight. Nothing crazy or that jumps off the page for you. Just 260 yards and a touchdown. Made some good throws tonight. Made the throws when he had to. Him and Nico Collins continue to prove that their connection is one of the best in the NFL. 8 catches for 135 yards and a touchdown last night for Nico. So the Texans being 2-0 and needing to work on some things and needing to clean up things is always a good thing for them, especially when you look at the rest of the division and the fact that the rest of their division is 0-2. We'll talk about that division a little bit more in Overreaction Monday. But the Texans are going to be just fine, in my opinion. They beat the Colts, they beat the Bears, and now they go at Vikings versus Jaguars as the next two. There's a very good chance that they're 4-0 heading into the Bills game. So no complaints on my end for the Texans. Would like to see them continue to be more explosive offensively, but their defense showed up big time last night and showed that they can be a real threat for them in the playoffs as well, alongside CJ Stroud and that offense. So there's your Sunday night football reaction. Sorry it wasn't longer. The game was I was hoping the game would be better and there would be some more talking points to talk about, but Caleb Williams struggling. Both defenses played well, and second half was not very well played as the Texans moved to 2-0 with the win on Sunday Night Football over the Chicago Bears 19-13. So that wraps up all of your recaps for week 2 in the NFL season. I'm just going to do this real quick and just update some standings here a little bit. So in terms of 2-0 teams in the AFC, you're looking at the Bills, Texans, Chargers, Steelers, and Chiefs. Just 5 of them in the AFC. In the NFC, now we still have the Eagles to play later tonight, but in terms of while you're watching this, Saints are 2-0 Vikings are 2-0. Seahawks are 2-0. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 2-0. So 9 teams 2-0. And then you obviously have the Eagles trying to go for 2-0 later tonight. In terms of 0-2 teams, the AFC 0-2 teams is crazy to think about, and some of these teams being on there. But it's the Broncos, the Ravens, the Bengals, Colts, Jaguars, and Titans. That is a lot of 0-2 teams in the AFC that are going to have a massive hole to climb out of if they want to make the playoffs. On the NFC side, it's just 3. 2 that won't surprise you. 1 that might. Panthers and Giants are obviously 0-2, and then the Rams. The Rams are also 0-2, and the Falcons, if they lose tonight, will also be 0-2. But man, the AFC is a gauntlet, and to have, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams 0-2 in the AFC. Man, those teams are in trouble. But there you go. Week 2 of the NFL season is in the books after Monday Night Football tonight between Eagles and Falcons. I'm taking the Eagles in that game. It's an easy pick. Saquon scores another touchdown. I think they take care of business and beat the Falcons handily tonight. All right, let's get to Overreaction Monday. 5 juicy ones for you guys this week. Here we go. Number 5, Week 2 overreactions. I kept it pretty similar last week. It was Week 1. Week 2, let's heat it up a little bit. Number 1 on the list for you, Justin Fields will be the quarterback for the Steelers for the rest of the season. I think Justin Fields is QB1. Now, you're going to say, P-Way, the stats from Justin Fields in the first 2 weeks are not great. They're 2-0. What does Justin Fields do that Russell Wilson doesn't do? Or what does Russ do that Justin Fields can't do? Nothing. And he's more athletic, and you have a running threat with him. Russ may throw the deep ball a little bit better, but yesterday Justin Fields was throwing that pill around deep. Now, some of them got called back because of penalties or whatever the case is, but I remember he had one to Pickens that was just like, okay. Fields can still sling that pill downfield. It's like, what do you upgrade your offense with putting Russ in over Fields? I don't really think so. Unless Russ is that much better at throwing the football than he was the last couple of years, we'll see. But I just think if you're the Steelers, you're only tied to Wilson for a year anyways. If you can build something with Fields this year and see some improvements and build him in Arthur Smith's offense, I just, in terms of looking for the future, the Steelers aren't going to be bad enough to be picking a quarterback, and there's not going to be a free agent quarterback for them to sign. So it just makes sense, if you ask me, to just start Fields now and try to just build something on year 1 with Arthur Smith and him, and then you come back the next year with Fields in year 2 of that offense. I don't know. It's just a thought. I think Fields should be the quarterback. I don't understand. I just don't see what the point is to start Russ. You're 2-0. Fields has played well enough for you guys to be 2-0. The defense is good enough. You add a run threat with Fields. Just don't really understand why you would turn to Wilson at this point. And it already feels like the locker room may be starting to get behind Fields, because when you're 2-0, man, everybody likes to win games. And if you're the quarterback under center when you're winning games, locker room's probably going to be behind you. All right, number 4, overreaction week 2. I teased it just a second ago, but the AFC South is officially wrapped up. It's over. Division's a wrap. Just hand the Texans the division title. You're telling me all 3 teams are going to spot the Texans 2 games in that division? Come on. Unless CJ Stroud gets hurt, they're not losing this division. I would be shocked if they lost this division after all 3 teams are 0-2 and they're 2-0. They have 2-game lead on all of them. I see it as an insurmountable comeback, because because these 3 teams that are left, Colts, Jaguars, and Titans, they still all have to play each other twice. Remember, the Colts play the Texans in week 1, but the Jags, Titans, and Colts all have to play each other 2 more times. So they're going to pick each other off. And the Texans obviously have to still play, the Colts 1 more time, and then the Jags and Titans twice. But I think this division's a wrap. Texans defense is very good this year, adding Danielle Hunter. Hopefully Joe Mixon can stay healthy for them, but I felt it going into the season that this was going to be an uncompetitive division, and I think it's just been confirmed after the first 2 weeks. I mean, are you impressed by Tennessee? No. Are you impressed by Jacksonville? I'm not. What about the Colts? Hell no. Like, which team do you think is going to figure it out to come chase the Texans down after being down 2 games through the first 2 weeks. It's not happening. I don't think it'll happen. I would be genuinely shocked if it does happen. I think the AFC South is officially a wrap. In the books, Texans are no worse than the 4 seed. That's just my opinion after week 2. All right, let's go to number 3. Overreaction. Now, you guys might think this is bias, but I firmly believe this, even if I was not a Chargers fan. But I do believe that the Chargers will challenge the Chiefs for the division. I didn't say win. Where did you hear that? I didn't say win. I said challenge. I believe the Chargers will challenge the Chiefs for the division. What does that look like? Well, it looks like at least splitting. You have to at least split, because if you don't split, it's over. So they have to split. And then they got to. So the Chargers play the Chiefs in 2 weeks, and then they play them again the second week of December. So those are bookended games where if the Chargers lose the first one and they get the second one, then boom, they still have 2 more divisional games left after that. I believe that they'll challenge the Chiefs. Do I think they'll win it? Talk to me after week 4. I think they'll challenge the Chiefs for the division. The defense is so improved. I think we've given up 13 points through 2 weeks. The back end is much more secure. The linebacking core is much better. We tackle a lot better. There's a real pass rush, and there's an offensive line with a run game. It's a whole new football team. You guys cannot view the Chargers how you viewed them the last 6 to 8 years. It's hard for me to even do it, but seeing J.K. Dobbins and that offensive line move bodies and run the football and control the line of scrimmage, it's beautiful to watch, and it's something I haven't seen in a while. And the Chargers are 2-0, and Herbert's had to do nothing through the first 2 weeks. So let him continue to get healthy and continue to get back from that foot injury and go challenge the Chiefs. I didn't say they'll win it. They will challenge the Chiefs for the division. Number 2, Overreaction Monday. Vikings are going to the playoffs. I don't give a fuck. I think the Vikings are that good. I trust their coach more than a lot of coaches in the NFC. I trust him more than the Saints coach. I trust him more than the Eagles coach. I trust him more than the Buccaneers, the Cardinals, the Commanders, the Cowboys, the Bears, the Falcons, Panthers, Giants, and Rams. I trust him more than all those teams. Maybe not the Rams. The Rams is the same conversation. I trust McVay just as much. But there's not a lot of coaches I trust more in the NFC than Kevin O'Connell. Hell of a football coach. Think about what he did last year with Dobbs, and now he's doing it again with Darnold this year, where he's just taking a guy that nobody believes in and just executing an offense and helping them win football games. Justin Jefferson, hopefully he'll be fine by next week. He didn't say it was going to be a big issue. He had a big game today. Aaron Jones has been a great addition to their offense in the backfield. I like this Vikings team. I like the swag that they have. I like the way Darnold is playing. This looks like the Darnold that was supposed to be a top 5 pick in the NFL after the big freshman year at USC. He's starting to really find his groove and look more confident out there. And when you have, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison on the outside, Hawkinson and Aaron Jones, like they have weapons. So I think the Vikings are going to the playoffs this year. That is my number 2 overreaction from week 1. And my final overreaction from week 2, my number 1 overreaction. Zach Taylor's going to get fired if the Bengals don't make the playoffs. I was just going to say he's officially on the hot seat, but it's well past that. 0-2 for the last 3 straight seasons with Joe Burrow as your quarterback. If the Bengals don't make the playoffs, I believe Zach Taylor will be fired. Now, a caveat to that is I don't know how much time is left on his contract or how many years are left on his contract. I do know that the Bengals have very cheap ownership, as you can see them not wanting to pay Jamar Chase now, having to sell the naming rights of the stadium so they could pay Joe Burrow. They won't pay Zach Taylor if he's still under contract. Let me see if I can actually find Zach Taylor's contract. So it looks like I'm reading here. He signed an extension through 2026. 1 season to pay out is better than 2, but the Bengals can't afford to miss the playoffs this year. They can't. Missed the playoffs last year, disappointing year last year. Followed up with another one. I mean, how long can they ride the Super Bowl appearance? Not the Super Bowl win, the Super Bowl appearance. How long can they ride that? How long can Zach Taylor ride that? Do I think Zach Taylor's a bad coach? No, I don't think that at all. But when you start 0-3 or 0-2 for 3 straight years, and if you would follow it up by 2 straight missed playoff seasons, clock's ticking is all I'm saying. But I think they could fire him if he doesn't make the playoffs. There's always surprise firings in the NFL in the offseason that we don't see coming. I think this could be one if the Bengals miss the playoffs and continue to struggle as we go forward. Now, they played much better yesterday. They looked like a real football team, but they still lost the game. And they're 0-2. Zach Taylor needs to get those boys playing better. He needs to get them wins, or else I think he is on the hot seat and could be potentially enjoying his last year as the Cincinnati Bengals head coach. Remember, he did not have a great start to his tenure either, but Mike Brown wouldn't fire him because they don't want to pay his contract. So there you have it. Those are my top 5 overreactions from week 2. Monday Night Football coming up tonight, Eagles and Falcons. I'll be enjoying that one. Coming up later this week on the pod. So on Wednesday, I'm going to do my full UFC 306 reaction. It's going to be a tough one to film. Obviously, you guys saw my picks, and you'll know that I was not happy with some of the results last night. But we'll do a little bit of UFC on Wednesday, a little bit of college football on Wednesday as well, and then we will do some more NFL on Friday. Probably preview the games for Friday, and just some other stuff coming up as well. But thank you guys once again for tuning in to episode 6 of One Way Sports. If you could like, comment, subscribe, whatever you can, it would be greatly appreciated. We're just trying to continue to build this podcast up. If you guys want to hear specific things talked about or have suggestions or other things you guys would like to hear, please let me know. My Instagram and Twitter is in the description. But that'll do it for me on a Monday. Enjoy your guys' week. I'll see you guys again on Wednesday. Peace.